Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. Now, immediately before I started filming, I dumped just so much hot tea all over the papers that I have in front of me. And I thought, maybe I should not record as I try and clean that up. But no, this is the just chaotic, dumb content you guys sign up for every single day. So thanks for sticking with me as I just deal with a wet desk underneath a bunch of dice. Not the point. Anyway, getting into D&D news from today, not a whole lot going on other than obviously we are still coming off of the Strixhaven marketing campaign that they had going on. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, definitely check it out. It's a cool little supplement that fills a very specific niche, but still a pretty good niche all the same, I think. And they have begun their marketing campaign for the rules expansion set that comes out in January. The expansion set includes one new book in addition to two books that are already out. Every single time I start to talk about it, I blank entirely on what it is, and I don't write it down because I'm like, oh no, I'll remember it for sure, because it's Tasha's and then something else, and then here I am forgetting about it. Once again, if you want that new book, it is the only way to get it until later on in 2022. So, either you're going to need to bite the bullet or wait it out, whichever one sort of suits your fancy there. Honestly, I don't know which one I'm going to do yet, because I don't really want to buy two books that I already have again, but at the same time, I really do want to get that book. And then I want to be able to look at it and then tell you guys about it and all that. So we will see what actually ends up happening with that one when we get to that point in the future. Who knows? Anyway, moving on from D&D news, in terms of D&D streams that we have today, it is not necessarily D&D. However, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Dropout, the Misfits and Magic holiday special is dropping tonight. Again, GM'd by Miss Abria Iyengar. Players Lou Wilson, Brennan Lee Mulligan, God, who else was in that game? Erika Ishii, and I cannot remember her name. I can't remember the last person's name. Their face is sitting in front of me, but I cannot remember the name. But if you have seen Magic and Misfits, it is phenomenal. It is so much fun. I am so excited about it. I cannot wait to get to see it. So go ahead and make sure you check that out tonight. In addition, if I did my math right, a little boop, 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 boop calculations, there should be a new episode of The Adventure Zone, again, owned by one Miss Abria Iyengar, coming out today as well at some point. I do not know exactly when, but it is supposed to be at some point today, because they are releasing on Wednesdays, as far as I am aware. That is everything we have for games that are happening. Once again, if you know of any streams that I should be plugging on here, checking out, let me know, because I would love to be able to actually plug those, expand my repertoire a little bit, all of those good things. And once again, looking forward, if you are interested in seeing me play and DM games, I have one campaign that's going to be going up on this YouTube channel, available to my patrons first, very, very shortly here, that is set in the fantastical world of Flavor City. It was based on a dumb joke that I made months and months ago, and I'm really excited to actually be able to bring it to you guys. And then in January of next year, streaming on Twitch and YouTube and everything else, I will be a player in a game called Sidetracked. I am very excited about that one as well. I haven't gotten to be a player in a very long time, so I'm excited to see the reaction to what that story turns into. That one is going to be with a bunch of people from TikTok, specifically the D&D side of TikTok. So if you are interested in that, check that out when it comes out. But moving on from that little announcement-y kind of thing, let's get into what we're talking about today. Nope, let's not get into what we're talking about today. Let's do T&D first. First up, I have this mug that I got my fiance 8 or 9 months ago now. I don't remember exactly. It is one of her lines, or her favorite lines from New Girl, and of course, Mr. Nick Miller here. And then inside of that, we have this tea from Econ Tea called Dayaholic. I I don't remember exactly what is in it, but it is very good. It's got quite a bit of like different spices to it. It smells delicious. It's got like a really, I don't know. I'm not like a particularly foodie kind of person. I really like food, but I'm not like a I don't know words for it. It's got what feels like a round smell to me. I don't know if that's a word people use to describe smells or tastes or whatever, but it smells round and like deep and spicy and all of those things. But it is a very good black tea, as evidenced by the fact that I do not have a whole lot of it left. I'm starting to run out, so I need to get myself some more of that. Anyway, now we can get into what we were talking about today. I am revisiting downtime a little bit. Specifically, I want to talk to you guys today about why you should give your D&D party a year off. Not necessarily your actual game take a year off, but give the players in-game, give the characters in-game a year of downtime. Specifically, this is coming back up because I just did this. I think I mentioned in the downtime video that my players were coming up on having a long period of downtime off. And then we ran into some scheduling problems, the plight of every D&D game, for about 2.5 months, largely and in part because they're all working insane schedules, and I worked every single day for about 6 weeks straight, 3.5 of which were like crazy when I dropped off of here for a little while. And so we finally this last weekend got to sit down and play the game where they were doing a year later. And let me tell you, it was honestly, at least in my opinion, I was talking pretty much the whole time. They did a lot of role play, but I helped facilitate, obviously. That's what a DM does. It seemed like they all really enjoyed it, even the people who didn't have like big plans for the year. So I'm gonna sort of talk through a couple of things that they did, some of the stuff that I really liked that they wanted to do, and why I really think that this is a good thing that you should give to your players, a long period of downtime. It doesn't have to be a year, but a year is a lot of time to get a lot of stuff done, which is really awesome. So let's dive in, shall we? So I have 6 different players. They're playing 6 drastically different characters, which is a lot of fun. It makes for a really good dynamic. They're all first-timers, which means that a lot of their characters reflect relatively closely to themselves. And so it's kind of like the real-life friend group dynamic that we all have anyway, which is actually a very good one and, fun to play with, obviously. But that also leads to them thinking in character, because they do have some very specific things about their characters that are obviously not them, that they lean into really, really hard. And so they've got a lot of different things that they are actively exploring and actively trying to do in character, which is also really great and really fun. And so we had people who, we have the bard / wizard decided that she was going to go help research something that was happening under a mountain in a different city for pretty much the entire year. She spent the first couple weeks here and there, but most of the year was out there. And so they came to me with this one, and she said, okay, I think I'm going to spend my year doing this. And I said, okay, so here's a mechanic I'm going to give you. We're going to say you can pick up X number levels of spells of whatever you want, in addition to a proficiency here or there if you so choose. And so she went, great, sounds good. And so when we got to it in game, there was a little bit of roleplay between her and the person that she was going to be actually doing this research with, in addition to letting her sort of pick these spells ahead of time and sort of think about how to use those and then gaining whatever those proficiencies are, which was a lot of fun. That one was one of the more straightforward ones, actually, because it was really just sort of like, go and do this thing. And then there were a couple of rolls to work on the research, and they ended up finding some good information, but I don't think necessarily everything that they wanted to. And so I'm sure it will be an ongoing thing in the campaign. She was specifically requested for a reason. But giving her that year to be able to go there and work on that meant that she had time to actually commit to that and not feel like she was ignoring maybe either what the party needed or what this friend that they had made along the way who was researching needed. And actually, jumping back a little bit, I think it's important to mention that pretty much the entire party split for the entirety of the year, more or less. And so it gave them opportunities to sort of go do things in their own character without necessarily the restrictions of the group having to bring a large group with you or having conflicting ideals within the group. They all got to kind of go out and do their thing, which was nice. And because we run into a lot of paralysis when it comes to decisions, given that the entire group is made up of teachers, so they like to plan a lot ahead of time. And that's just kind of how it goes. Then we had someone who has been sort of like struggling back and forth with their character's been in this like internal and kind of external conflict the whole time. They ended up secretly multi-classing into Cleric at one point, where it eventually came to light, obviously. I wouldn't be talking about it on the internet if that hadn't happened yet, because I know that at least one of my players watches this video, or watches these videos. And so she then went out and joined up with a couple of other people that they had met along the way to do some work with them, sort of hunting down larger monsters, working on sort of refining the things that she has figured out and figuring out a new path to tread, because she is just broken with the entity that had given her her powers, and is actually kind of playtesting a subclass that I wrote for her, specifically, that I have obviously expanded on a little bit. And so I'm excited to see how that one goes and to see if the flavor really, really holds on that one as we go through. And then towards the end of those, about 6 months of that, she then went off to a different continent and did some monster hunting there with another member of the party after doing a little bit more research out there. That other member of the party had started the year off alone in a forest commune, essentially trying to connect with her godly parents that were Sylvanus and Chanteo, the two of the deities of nature, through which she gained access to the Druid Magic Initiate feat, which is super cool, in addition to getting some magic tattoos, which is really, really awesome. And then after she left and while they were out doing monster hunting together, they managed to harvest stuff and like bring it back and bring it to a mage / armor that would create them or turn them into different items. So they got some special scale mail in addition to a displacer cloak, which is really, really awesome. So moving on from that, we have the rogue, who started off as a criminal, obviously, who has been on a path of redemption. He finally has sort of embraced a new monk path. I say embraced. He's been working towards it for a while, but he picked a monk subclass this last game because he went up to level 16, and so he took his 3rd level in monk, which allowed him to sort of like go out and explore a couple of different monasteries that are scattered over across the country, so that he could pick which one he wanted to do and go with that. And all of these had like lengthy conversations ahead of time about what it is they wanted to accomplish, the different like in-game benefits they were hoping to get, the things that they wanted to do, me responding with like what is realistic, what can actually be accomplished in this time, that sort of thing. And it has been really, or it was really cool to sort of get to work with them on how they wanted that year to go, because it was instead of like improvisationally crafting the story at the table, it was like stepping back and helping write the story for them, that then we got to actually interact with and play out, which is obviously a little bit different than than a normal D&D game, because you're not just on the fly most of the time. The 5th member of the party is a cleric who's been serving her god for a while. She went to the religious sort of epicenter of the world and did a bunch of work there along the way, sort of helping little towns and helping to wipe out any sort of undead that had been wandering, because a lot of what had been going on in the world up to that point was based in undeath and stuff like that. So getting to help remove some of that scourge that's been across the countryside was really, really great. And actually, in spending that year at that religious epicenter, helped to craft a new spell entirely, which is really awesome. And normally clerics don't necessarily get to help craft spells like that. That's more of like a wizard thing, an artificer thing, like maybe a sorcerer or bard kind of thing too, like strictly arcane. But I was like, yeah, we can make this work. We can figure this out. And so we figured out a spell that is specifically extremely good against undead. I'll probably post it on Patreon at some point here. And so getting to work in that was really, really great as well. And then our final character actually is part of nobility in the city that had been destroyed by the dragon that they had just finished taking care of, that was going into the year off. And so he went ahead and he took the first 6 months of his time out being a diplomat to a bunch of different places. He went all over the continent and then across the seas to different continents to help reestablish trade, get a bunch of stuff back open. And then he came back, and the remainder of the royal family, the ones who were not in the city when it was attacked, had come back, and they had sort of like helped set everything up. And so he didn't have quite as much responsibility. So he decided to go ahead and open an ice bar in the middle of the city to help, revive the city economy. And I think when we were talking about that, it was interesting because he just kind of like lit up a little bit as he began to describe all of the different things that he had going on there. It's called the Dragon's Breath Ice Bar. There's a giant like dragon head that sticks out into the street that's wildly inconvenient for foot traffic, but it doesn't really matter. And all of these different sort of things. There's like 4 levels of VIP lounge. And it was really cool to be able to like use that in the story because ultimately everybody was summoned back to attend the official coronation of the new king, the member of the royal family that had been helping out as his 2 older sisters had been. One of them had been killed, and one of them said that she didn't want the throne. So it fell to, obviously, the third line there. And so they were all invited back to this coronation, and they met up at the Dragon's Breath, all to see this as he went last in our round table sort of thing. Sort of as he is describing it, they're all sort of coming back in and looking up and around, very confused as to what's going on. And it was a really, really interesting way to reintroduce everybody. And so obviously that's a lot about my personal game there that is not necessarily super relevant to you, but that is all to say that it is a really, really exciting way to work with your players, and maybe a way that you don't necessarily get to work with them all the time, because so much of the game itself is built around improv, running with it, like figuring things out on the fly, in addition to little bits of plan that you can get here and there, structuring encounters and stuff like that. And this was a really beautiful, like, sort of way to get to work with them to help shape their characters a little bit more, instead of having their characters be shaped by reactions to the world around them. Because over the course of a year, you're not making a single ability check to see how you do at one task. You've got this sort of rolling time period where you can practice things and get better at things. And it allowed them to pick up certain features, traits, spells, items, that sort of thing, that they wouldn't have normally had the opportunity to do, which I think is really, really awesome. Like giving the wizard the ability to just sort of learn spells from this other wizard that she's working with is great. Or to help, or to give her time to like work on and develop spells, so she's not doing it on the side of the road, but not more in a laboratory or something like that. That's awesome. Letting the cleric go to the center of worship as a level 16 cleric, being pretty much the highest level member of that church in the world, to a certain extent, they are viewed as extremely important there. Like all of these things, and then it felt nice to be able to give my players this time period for them to explore their characters and develop their characters a little bit more the way that they would like to in a less time-intensive setting. So much of D&D is built around, the pressure of getting something done, and so this was a really, really nice way to do the opposite of that and let them develop organically in a scenario where you're constantly risking their lives unless they want to be, like going hunting in the mountains for super dangerous creatures or something like that. I don't know. So that is my incredibly long-winded rambling way to say, give your players an extended period of downtime. I like a year, apparently. I really, really like a year. Something that we didn't actually get even to do in that game was have them design their residency in this forest city, because they grow it out of tree and they magically grow it to be sort of the shape that you want it to be and have the layout that they want. So we will get to doing that next time we play a little bit, and I'm excited for that too, because it is once again a low stakes thing. It lets them leave sort of an impression on the world that isn't soaked in blood necessarily, and so that's a lot of fun. So yeah, give your players some downtime, like a long period of downtime, especially at the end of a really intense long arc. It's a nice little reward that is not, it's different than gold and treasure. Obviously give them gold and treasure too, but like it's a different kind of reward that maybe they don't realize is great until they actually are in it. And that's what I have to say on that. So that is the end of what I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you so much, as ever, for tuning in and making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you are able to and would like to become a patron, there is a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. You guys are the best. I appreciate every little bit of support that comes my way. Yeah, I think that's about everything that I have to talk about. So that means that I will be back tomorrow morning to talk to you guys a little bit more about something else. But until then, keep on rolling.